Today, I'm giving you my superpower. I am a super connector, and everything that I could credit my success to in life comes down to my people skills. My ability to have gotten jobs in the past, talking my way onto Wall Street, Silicon Valley, having high ticket coaching clients, charging as much as $15,000 in the past for a month for working with people one-on-one, or even in group settings, traveling around the world with people, creating my own life of freedom, having the most epic adventures, being able to connect with amazing individuals all around the world, a lot of beautiful women. It all came down to my capacity to connect. Anything that I say today, I'm just gonna preface with, I don't mean to sound braggadocious, I'm just stating the things that have happened in my reality. And there's obviously ways for me to even level up as a connector. But I'm gonna tell you all the things that have worked for me so you can incorporate this into your art of connecting with people. I'm pretty fucking excited about this. As you can see, I somehow ended up in this beach on a Monday. I haven't slept all night. I've been up for about 18 hours. My sleep schedule's been totally fucked after being in Asia, LA, and then now the East Coast here. So forgive me if I'm a little cracked out. So I call myself the Shy Asian, as you've heard in past videos. And I kind of hate that moniker, but it reminds me of myself in my past. I did start out as a very shy Asian. I did start out very awkwardly. I did start out being unable to contribute to conversations. And I could get into my backstory in another video, but that's how it all started out for me. So everything that I'm telling you is just sheer will, desire, and the things that you can acquire are all learnable. And it all started with a desire to be able to fit in and make people want to laugh. I genuinely felt like making people want to laugh, or making people laugh, was a way to bring real joy. To hear someone laugh genuinely is like a very liberating, freeing, and value-giving experience. And that didn't come very naturally to me. But I remember as a kid just being a little bit of a class clown when I had the opportunity to. And that mindset of wanting to give value and wanting to make people laugh was an incredible thing to cultivate. Because if you're able to connect on a personal level and be able to bring good emotions, there's not a lot of people that are not gonna like you. So developing your own sense of humor, your own wit, being conversational in these ways really help, especially when your mind is trained to just find things that you could find funny in any given situation, right? So it could be very silly, it could be stupid, it could be just boys humor, it could be whatever you think at some point once you get this down, things that make you laugh. And that self-amusement really transfers across a lot of situations. And even being able to point out awkwardness and laugh at that too can just, break the tension in any given situation. The next thing is having genuine interest in other people. I cannot stress this enough. Oh my God, fuck. Have you ever been with somebody that just gave no fucks about meeting you? They're just like, yeah, like whatever, blah, blah. What can you do for me? It's one of the most frustrating things. It's like you're trying to actually have a real conversation with someone and they're just not even there. Their mind is too out there, just bored or like not engaging. And then they're just like, who's this person on their fucking high horse that doesn't even pay attention or like at least try? So that's what it feels like when you don't have genuine interest in people. So if you take the opposite of that, you're gonna be very successful with people in general. How does this show up? This shows up as like asking thoughtful, curious questions. Having a belief, for me, this actually was very effective. Having a belief that there's always something amazing about another person And there's always something interesting to learn from this person. If you have that as like a default belief about other humans, now it's a matter of uncovering it. And most people don't know how to uncover it or share it right away. Most people are just kind of like a little shy or awkward, or they don't want to be braggadocious, and so they just, they don't want to be weird and just like all of a sudden start flexing. So it's a bit of a puzzle to bring those out of people. So asking good questions, you get good answers, right? If you ask very generic surface level questions, you're gonna get very surface level answers. Being a good listener goes in tandem with this. I am always someone that tries to understand the world better and understand reality, understand people. And oftentimes people have like a wealth of information. You never know when somebody has experienced something that could be useful for you. And sometimes they'll be telling you these things and it just might blow over your head if you're not paying attention. But having this presence and just the ability to listen and decipher what people are actually fucking saying is so important, because they'll just tell you the answers straight up that can actually affect your life. I'm always wanting to listen to people's stories. And so I'll share stories with you in this video too, to give you concrete examples of how these things have played out for me. So being a good listener requires you to be present. And there's a very different vibe when someone's just calm, present, and with you, or even engaged, animated, and with you, than someone who's just ADD all over the place giving you half their attention. It's like a lost art, especially with technology, cell phones, social media. And so it's a superpower to be able to be present with people, and it will distinguish you because people always remember how you made them feel. And if you're giving them your undivided attention, or even if you're busy, you're like making this concerted effort to be there with them, that's a game changer. That's a fucking game changer. It's kind of silly. But then also, yeah, it's kind of silly that that a lot of people still break this like principle or are completely unaware of it. But you can feel a palpable difference. And your ability to be a good conversationalist and be able to, use your wit and call out moments and be funny and engaging, it comes way more naturally when you are present with people. Because you're like right there, you're not even thinking about anything else, you're just thinking about the moment, and all these things will come to you. So if you have a lot of anxiety and all these things, it takes you out of the present moment, but you can always shift your focus back and rewire your brain to just be a good listener. You ask a good question, someone comes with you, pay attention, listen. You give out a little remark, a witty comment, maybe a little jab. See how people respond to that, how they react to you. These are all amazing things that, like, already, the couple things that I've told you will just make you stand apart. Now, something else that really worked for me was just genuinely come in with good intent. Like, I genuinely wish the best for people. And I've always had more of a collaborative frame than a competitive one, even though I could be competitive in sports. But I don't believe someone else's success is my loss. So I'm genuinely happy when people succeed. There's a lot of bugs here, so I'm trying not to get bit right now because my leg has already been destroyed. So not to distract you, but seeing if you're paying attention. All right. But genuinely wanting the best for people, because I think we're all humans and we're all connected and we can all succeed and thrive together. We're all in the process of this journey of life together. So if I could genuinely contribute in a meaningful way to other people's lives, whether they're friends or strangers, it gives me fulfillment. And also gives me this sense of satisfaction, like, hey, I did something meaningful and helpful to these other people. And you know what? If it goes around, it would probably come back around. And not really being super transactional about it. Not being transactional is so key. It's so fucking key, because when you know that there's strings attached, you don't want shit, right? It's like a guy on the street when he like he gives you his mixtape, or he does all these like entertainment like right up in your face, and you know it's like, oh, he's gonna ask for money later, right? Nothing comes for free. And so there's like a weird feeling of neediness when you come with an expectation. So giving without expectation and being self-sufficient is what I realize creates good vibes. All right, so I had to get rid of the beach desk setup because my feet were getting destroyed by these bugs. They're not a joke. So where was I? Presence, asking good questions, understanding how a person is wired, what makes them tick, what experiences led them to become who they are today. There's a balance with like vibing, giving them fun emotional experience, being able to connect with someone on a personal level, and then being able to then delve into these deeper questions that allow you to be able to really get a sense of who the person is and why. I think that is one of the most fun processes of discovering how a person became the way they are and what's important to them, what's valuable, what are they looking to accomplish or improve in their life. The next is just being a good connector of not only people, but ideas, right? If you are constantly leveling up your ability to then learn valuable things that you could share with people, whether it be a skill set or whether it be information from other people that others don't have access to, you can now share that with other people who don't have that luxury. And that is immense amounts of value. Like, let's just say I'm friends with Alex Hermosi, and then we go meet up, and I'm like, oh, dude, you're an entrepreneur? You really like businesses? Oh, where are you struggling with your business? Oh, like sales? Oh, I just hung out. I had dinner with Alex Hermosi last night, and what he advised for people who are struggling with that was do ABC, XYZ. Go get a setter. Like, interview 100 setters and then go hire 5 of them, and then X amount of closers. You're gonna be like, holy fuck, damn, Andrew just gave me a lot of value. This is incredible. And then you're gonna build a liking for me because it's just a lot of value. Right? So if you're giving emotional value and then some other forms of value, and you're just stacking on the value, that's what's not to like. Now, the vibe is also really important, right? Like, if you're this dude that's just kind of weird, and you could have all these great things, but you're not presenting them in I guess palatable ways or fun ways, then you are shooting yourself in the foot, and it's just not going to come across or be well received. So the presentation of that matters as well, right? Just being kind of the cool, laid back guy that's just chill and fun, and then you're also sharing these things. It's just the best of both worlds, your duality, and that will take you so fucking plenty far, right? Now, when it comes to the actual connecting of people, it's all about putting yourself out there and access. What does that mean? My first job when I was a college student was talking my way into getting looks to break into finance. I didn't go to a very professionally oriented school. I went to a very academic, intellectual school, which I'm thankful of because I learned how to think. I was forced to participate. It was a very Socratic way of learning, which was perfect for me. But I didn't have finance. I didn't have business. I didn't have accounting. And so I had to kind of go out of my way if I wanted to break into Wall Street. But I remember my senior year, I heard there were interviews at a nearby Ivy League school. So I took the train, wore a suit, snuck in, walked right by, and as soon as these bankers were leaving, I felt the jitters, the anxiety. Oh, I'm just some dumbass college kid with no value about to take up this dude's time. Wrong mentality. But I forced myself to make the approach, take right action, get in front of them, give my 30-second elevator pitch, hand them my resume, 5 out of those 6 teams were like, hey, we just finished wrapping up interviews here, but come to New York. We'll either grab coffee or point you to the right person. And I started realizing, this is the way you create your luck. Holy fuck, this is so meaningful. The art of just being able to go approach people. You create your own luck. You don't have to rely on other people to go do it for you. Taking these actions really opens up so many doors. And it became part of my story. And I learned that from getting outside my fears and my social comfort zone by talking to girls. That's where it started. I didn't know it would unlock other parts of my life like this. And the same thing when it came to transitioning out of finance into Silicon Valley. I had friends that I'd built a relationship with throughout the years, and I was able to get the lay of the land of the industry and where there would be opportunities, where it would be a good place to try to position myself. So I got good information, and then I had intros. So I was able to get introduced to the right people and tell my story and put myself out there with my best foot forward. Be my charismatic self, you know? Because I've done it so many times and time again. And that's what you get with all the reps, with all the rejections. It doesn't scare you anymore. It's like 50 Cent. He's like, the first time someone held me up at gunpoint, he's like, I was scared. The second time, I was less scared, but I was still scared. The third time, ice cold. Now, talking to girls, talking to professionals, talking to people we don't know, it's definitely way less scary than being held up at gunpoint. But the point is, everybody has that weird social fear. There's very few people in this world without it. And maybe it was the lack of trauma, or maybe it was a specific way that they were brought up. Who knows? It doesn't fucking matter. It's like, what do they say? Your trauma is your gift. Your curse is also your blessing, if you choose to make it so. The thing that held me back the most ended up becoming my strong suit. I was totally terrible with people, and now it's my superpower that I almost identify with so much. And it's a way that I'm choosing to live my life. You know, it's so crazy how far it's taken me just to be even remotely compassionate. Remotely compassionate has opened up so many doors. Just like a non-judgmentalness. Now, I know a lot of you guys are gonna combat this, but just hear me out for a second. I'm not saying go make dumbass decisions, but a lot of times, sometimes people are too smart for their own good. And they'll logically make a conclusion of something that kind of makes sense, and I can understand it, but it's the wrong idea, right? For example, there's a seminar. Oh, it's $500. You know, I got work, the amount of time I'll have to take, you know, it's just gonna be a little bit of a stretch time-wise, budget-wise. It's gonna decrease my quality of life or my standard of living by this or that, blah, blah, blah. You know, that's just one order of consequence of judgment. But the second is like, what's the value of this conference? What's the value of this information? What's the impact that it can make on my life? Is it worth that investment? Is it worth going into debt for? Maybe going in the negative is actually a positive thing here, or a positive expected value, EV play. There's a mentor that I just started working with. There were loads of stories of the instructors that he hired and trained and groomed who then became multimillionaires, but that first 2-year investment that they made to commit, burn the boats, take on debt, to be able to get a car, feed themselves, show up, attend, ended up being probably the best investment of their life. So the same thing with people. When you're starting to get good, let go of all the judgments. There's always something to learn from somebody. Even my mentor was like, dude, we've worked with psychopaths and narcissists and sociopaths, and we've learned a lot from them. Doesn't mean that we're boys with them or they're close in our lives, but they can sometimes offer up a different way of thinking, a different perspective that's actually effective, or what to defend against, right? So there's always something to appreciate, even if it's in the negative, from learning from people. And when your eyes are open to that idea rather than just shutting it off because you hate surface talk or whatever, small talk. If you hate small talk, it just means you suck at fucking bantering and you suck at being a conversationalist, and you have your own work cut out for you. That's what that means. But it means that if you can just let go of the guards and just find ways to cut through and get through to the other person, that says a lot about you. I always took it as like a personal challenge. Hey, can I get through to this other person? And then it just started becoming second nature. Good vibes, fun, good intent, humor. They could feel the trustworthiness from me. They could feel the trustworthiness from me. There have only been like a couple, I can only think of like one right now, guys who didn't like trust me off the bat. And that's because they were hyper paranoid, guys that were sharks themselves that were in a very sharky world of poker, where it was, PvP, everyone for themselves. You couldn't even trust your friends to be your true friends, to snake you. So understandable. But he went with the references of, our mutual friends, and, he ended up doing some kind things for me. And we became decent friends for a short period of time, So I'll tell some other stories about this, about being non-judgmental. So there was a time when I was in Ukraine and I knew two guys. I knew a group of guys, but there were two guys in particular. One guy had access to all the exclusive nightclub events, VIP, backstage, And then the other guy knew all the gastro, diners, restaurants, secretly operating hookah lounges, especially when the pandemic shut down. Now these guys would have been mutually beneficial to one another, but they had such strong egos and they would just be so disagreeable with one another that they just couldn't stand to be with each other. But I could see both of these gifts that they had, and I could also see their human side because they felt comfortable enough to show that with me. And I'm like, damn, I'm in the middle and I could see both sides of this. And if they could just let go of their bullshit, we could all just have a great time, ball out, and thrive together. But they couldn't. And that's when I realized, man, ego gets in the way of greater things in life. Greater things in life. And, that's gross. I think that's a condom. Let's see. LOL. So egos get in the greater things of life is what I've learned. And there's a time and a place to have ego. There's a time and a place to have pride and stand up for yourself and push through and not lower your standards. There's always a time and place for that. But what I've found is, especially when it comes to dealing with people, it often gets in the way of greater things. So if you want to be good with people, don't take anything personally. There's always a lot of fucking stories that people make up in their mind about why a person is the way they are. They misread the situation, but it makes them feel good. It's the only understandable story to their ego of why something played out the way it played out or why they got disrespected, because that's what the ego feeds off of. The ego feeds off of feeling right, feeling vengeance, feeling petty, feeling like better than everyone else, superior. It's like a protective mechanism. But if you could let it go, that also allows you to circumvent social hierarchies because you're not playing by that rule. That was a crazy realization that I had years ago, which is I've been in environments with plenty of wealthy people, and because I just treat everyone as like a human being, I obviously respect everybody. I obviously bring good energy to everyone. And it takes the pressure off and it feels real. Like I'm not afraid to make little jabs or teases at people that I meet, you know, out of endearment or like love, you know, as a way to like show, you know, we don't have to take all things too seriously. Now there is a duality and a dichotomy to be managed here, right? After all, connecting with people is an art. For every rule there's times and places that you could break these rules. But right now I'm sharing with you the principles that have worked out for the best part. And if you know you feel like something's off, just calibrate the other direction. If you're being a little too laid back and not serious, and that people aren't taking you seriously, then just start being a little bit more serious too. You can always do both in the same conversation. It shows that you're dynamic. Right? But going back to the likability thing too, being considerate of others, not always like asserting your preferences, being additive. If you see people throwing parties, offer to help or be considerate or offer to contribute. Like not burn down social relations by creeping out people or in parties especially, like, you know, trying to bang every girl, right? Be cognizant of the situation as best as you can. Maybe some people invited certain people because they wanted to spend more time with them or maybe get with them, especially if it's like foreign territory or even if it is your boys. Got to coordinate, right? You don't want to step on people's toes and then just get blackballed, which happened to my friend. Once again, there was a friend who actually introduced me to a group of baller guys that came into Ukraine and threw these massive parties where they rented out the entire penthouse and 2 floors underneath it for a week at a time every month. After my first person served his value, he got cut off because he was too much of a red flag. He was too much of a liability. He literally was wrecking and burning every relationship that he ever had with every person there. And I kept getting invited back because people enjoyed being around me and I'd bring the fun and I'd contribute and be additive. And at one point I also had to be cognizant. Here's where the caveat is, that there were people who were clumping me and my friend together as a group because we always showed up together in the past. And they thought that I had the same qualities and characters as him because birds of a feather flock together. And that's when I realized, fuck, damn, who you associate yourself with does matter. So being able to spark the connection is one thing. Being able to manage the relationship and actually forge long-lasting relationships also boil down to other variables such as your peer group. The good thing is, as a connector, you're gonna have plenty of options, and reading character is a whole nother art. But it only by getting a lot of volume of people and then forging deep relationships with them will you learn how to read people's character. And I honestly think that might be one of the most valuable skills you could ever learn. Ever learn, man. Another thing is, when it comes to access, creating value, fun events, container events, bringing attractive girls or bringing cool people all together, being an actual connector in that way is immense value. It's a great way to supercharge your ability to connect. And it makes a fun time too, right? Being a team player, helping organize, right? Nobody's gonna complain about somebody helping them. In fact, if anything, that actually led to me getting an entrepreneurial opportunity because I went to someone's retreat or event, assisted, helped out without even needing to be asked, and I got welcomed back and then offered like a paid position. Crazy. Paying money. Now this is an interesting topic because I know some guys are very, very, very thrifty. I'm not saying go blow your money for nothing, but as basically almost a professional knowledge seeker, I've definitely paid for a lot of access to events for information, which I then shared, but then also access to very hard to access people. I remember taking like an online dating accelerator. It was a small, tight-knit group. It was in beta, and I basically paid it because I actually wanted to connect and forge a personal relationship with the guys who were running it, because I felt like they were cool people that I could potentially learn from. I was actually more interested in that than the actual results of the online dating. So I went through their thing, and I was very in touch with their market. I was very in touch with people who they were trying to attract. I was also friends with a lot of wealthy young guys that wanted to improve their dating. So I remember there were times where I just gave so much feedback, and then it came to them asking me for my opinion on their marketing material, some of the information on demographics or the psychographics of their target audience and some of the guys that I was friends with. And I remember there was a particular streak where I spent entire days just writing up answers to these things and my honest thoughts, and they were just blown away. They're like, wow, this is such incredible, immense amount of value. It led to them inviting me to hang out with them in person in Amsterdam while the pandemic was going on. And then they actually were like telling me how to get in there because everything was closed, and like kind of how to maneuver. So I ended up spending a month out there, meeting them in person, building a personal relationship. And had that not happened, I would not have been able to spend an incredible time in Ukraine while Ukraine was open, while the rest of the world was shut down too. Fast forward a year or two later, they were working on, some other project, and I had a lot of contacts within the space. So I just started making intros to the most credible, educational, knowledgeable people that I knew that could help them jumpstart their project. And that just created a domino effect where they just blew it out with that next project to incredible heights. And actually out of nowhere, as a gift, they sent me a 5-figure amount that was more than I ever paid them, just for doing the solid of connecting them with people. And that's what I'm talking about, the possibilities of how relationships compound over time. It was crazy. It just surprised me. They're like, hey, check your wallet. I was like, oh shit. Ballin'. No. And so the benefits continue to stack and stack and stack, because every time you meet someone, it's like planting a tree, planting a seed that it could potentially create an oak tree. And one relationship could change your life. And just imagine you have a whole acre of seeds that are just growing that you could cultivate. So these are some of the things that, if you are willing to pay for access, let me say it again. If you're willing to pay for access, it unlocks the higher levels of the game. I'm not saying it's impossible to connect with people without it, but it's definitely a shortcut if you could just nut up at key times. If you just can't network your way into being, I don't know, who Andrew Tate or President Trump's friend, and be in their friend group, which it could be possible. It could be just a slow route to doing it, or maybe you're already plugged in, or maybe your friends of friends, you're just 1, 2, 3 degrees, or 2, 3 degrees away. Then by all means, do it that way, because a personal intro and a reference is so valuable, which also comes back down to being well networked and a connector, right? But even sometimes paying for access can then now open up that person's network to you as well. So my mentor was who I just hired, He's friends with a bunch of guys with big podcasts. He's like, if you want to take this route, I can introduce you, put you on, and then see if there's a good fit, if I'm qualified, if I'm able to like contribute in a meaningful way, if I want to take that route. I was like, wow. Because he also got a good vibe and a good impression from me. So I know this is now starting to get long, so I'm gonna wrap this up and just give you my final thoughts on where I'm gonna take this to the next level. So with art, there's a duality. You can only do things so far until that same strategy doesn't take you to where you wanna go anymore. So the next part is putting a premium on the connections that I have, putting a premium on the things that I do. You know, I've done a lot already to be generous with it. And that's honestly how I got my first big ticket clients and got me my jump into the entrepreneurial journey. But now, people don't value things as much unless they're absolutely invested. And that was one of the harder lessons that I had to learn. So being okay receiving, learning how to receive, and being open to that possibility, because I've been able to change so many lives with the things that I've been able to say, do, share, connect, that it's only right that if I'm able to just be able to capitalize a bit of the value that I create, then that allows me, that funds me to be able to do that at even higher levels. And I do have a way of being able to make these connections where people actually like me and trust me. And making introductions is actually kind of a sensitive personal thing. If you ever tried mixing groups at a party, if you do it haphazardly, that could blow shit up. If a guy that you invite creeps out girls that are friends of yours, the girls might lose trust in you, and other guys might get pissed. So it's a very sensitive thing, and it's like basically on your judgment and your shrewdness, right? So being able to now realize and acknowledge the value that I create is now gonna create a barrier where people who are actually serious are gonna, and who trust me, are gonna actually be willing to invest in that. The next thing is definitely being more selective and screening people harder, right? I'm able to see people's gifts, I'm able to open up a lot of channels, but that doesn't necessarily mean I have to let everyone into my life. The capacity to forge social connections is a very useful and attractive quality. But the next step is being able to carry myself in a way where I don't open all those doors so easily for everybody. And so if you're getting in on my shit right now, it's the easiest it's ever gonna be. I'm gonna reward you. And I'll reward you even more if you come in later down the journey as well. But that's the other piece of this equation now, to be able to continue the development. And I think lastly, building a brand, that personal brand. If I am recognizable, then people will start coming to me as well, right? So I'm thankful for all the skills that I've been able to learn to be able to do it from scratch and do it one-on-one, because now I know how to handle it when I get inundated with people, which will happen in the future. But building a brand will be a way to supercharge all this stuff. I want to be able to just contribute so much at scale to people. I want more good people to come in, which is why I love doing this stuff anyways. I'm a contributor, I'm a helper, I'm a connector, I'm a knowledge seeker. I just want to share these things and create epic experiences for people to be able to maximize life. So I think building this channel up will be a way where I can do this even more effectively at scale. And I'm looking forward to that as well. So thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, what was your favorite tip? Share them all below, your thoughts, and we'll see you next time. Peace. One other story I want to share. Sometimes being too logical, too practical can break rapport. There's an example where I reconnected with a friend out in Buenos Aires, and we decided to go to Patagonia with another friend. And because we were joining in late and we were just YOLOing within 2 days, ticket prices for the flight that friend number 3 had was way more expensive. It was basically double the price of a ticket of a flight that was at a closer airport and at a reasonable time, like 7, 8 a.m. Instead, we took the same flight. We paid double to take a 4 a.m. flight at an airport that was twice as far, an hour to get to. And it kind of sucked on multiple levels, but because we all were able to connect together in the same Uber, be able to vibe when we were at the airport together, all those micro interactions when we were in transit really help build rapport between all 3 of us. So that's like kind of tricks of the trade that some people who are very practical wouldn't ever really think about until you do it. Which is that sometimes doing the unpractical thing, oftentimes actually, can help build the relationship that much faster, because those little moments, especially when you add them up cumulatively, really make a huge difference in terms of connecting with people. Right? You could actually see people for who they are in those moments. And it actually builds bonds and potential opportunities and trust and likability.